Welcome to this Saturday Travel and History Tip, and we are remaining in the state of Alabama, for there is a treasure trove of 20th century history there. And this week we will be going to the Tuskegee Airmen National Historic Site. Our previous two Saturday Travel and History Tips covered Horseshoe Bend National Military Park, the Selma to Montgomery National Historic Trail, and the Tuskegee University Tuskegee Institute. But today, we will focus on the Tuskegee Airmen National Historic Site. We went there after we visited the Institute site. The site commemorates and interprets the actions of the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II. The airmen included African American pilots, navigators, bombardiers, and others trained by the Army Air Corps program to fly and maintain combat aircraft. The Tuskegee Airmen overcame segregation and prejudice to become one of the most highly respected fighter groups during the war. Their achievements, together with those of the men and women who supported them, paved the way for full integration of the U.S. military. The site was established in 1998, and the day we went, the door was open, but no one was home, so to speak. The property was open to be toured, and the bookstore, which has recently been opened, was not opened on the day that we were there, but we were able to peruse the grounds and read all the wonderful signs. The flying adventure for the Tuskegee Airmen began at Moton Field in Tuskegee, Alabama. There are many reasons why this site is significant, and I will read a few of those. The military selected Tuskegee Institute, Tuskegee University, as a civilian contractor for a variety of reasons. These included the school's existing facilities, engineering and technical instructors, and a climate with ideal flying conditions year-round, and the racial climate of central Alabama. Tuskegee Institute's strong interest in providing aeronautical training for African American youth was also an important factor. Tuskegee students and faculty had designed and constructed Moton Field as a site for its military pilot training program and named it for the school's second president, Robert Rusa Moton. In 1941, the Army Air Corps, the Army Air Forces, awarded a contract to Tuskegee Institute to operate a primary flight school at Moton Field. Consequently, Tuskegee Institute was one of the very few American institutions and the only African American institution to own, develop, and control facilities for military flight instruction. Moton Field was the only primary flight training facility for African American pilot candidates in the U.S. Army Air Corps during World War II. Thus, the facility symbolizes the entrance of African American pilots into the Army Air Corps and the singular role of Tuskegee Institute in providing economic and educational resources to make that entry possible, although on a segregated basis. The last point that I will be covering is the Tuskegee Airmen were the first African American soldiers to successfully complete their training and enter the Army Air Corps. Almost 1,000 aviators were produced as America's first African American military pilots. In addition, more than 10,000 military and civilian African American men and women served in a variety of support roles. The property was absolutely gorgeous on this clear day that we visited. And don't you just love the little guardhouse they had out there the national park has? They came to Tuskegee. Young African American men came to Tuskegee from all over the nation to train as military pilots. They began with primary flight training here at Tuskegee Institute's Moton Field. Tuskegee Institute also had a smaller field, Kennedy Field, where some cadets received orientation flights in the Piper J-3 Cub during pre-flight training. Cadets who successfully completed primary at Moton Field transferred to Tuskegee Army Airfield, 7 miles from here, for basic and advanced flight training conducted by the Army Air Forces. Only Moton Field remains. This is still an active airport, although not military. Prepared to fight and die. We all were prepared to fight and die for our country, and after the war, we were prepared to fight and die for our rights. I think that is the contribution that was made at Tuskegee. George S. Lima in 2001. Like most of American society in the 1940s, the military was strictly segregated along racial lines. The Tuskegee Airmen served in separate units throughout the war. Despite these conditions and the skepticism of the military leadership, they molded themselves into highly effective combat units and served their country with distinction. The men of the 99th Fighter Squadron and the 332nd Fighter Group completed over 1,500 missions, destroyed over 260 enemy aircraft, 112 in the air, sank 1 enemy destroyer, and demolished many enemy installations. Welcome. From where you are standing, you can see the historic core of Moton Field. The named facilities have been restored, and hangars 1, 2, and Control Tower and the Skyway Club are museum facilities. You will also learn about the 4 frame structures on the property during your visit. And normally you would begin an orientation Hangar 1, but again, because of COVID, this was closed. This was the place where we learned to fly. We became pilots. We became officers. Randolph Edwards, 2003. They have these buildings, they call them ghost structures. And as you leave the parking lot and walk the trail down to the actual airfield, you go to what are one of the ghost structures, which is representative of the guardhouse. Primary flight training. The anticipation was like nothing I'd ever experienced in my life. All my boyhood dreams of flying came together. My goal was to get in that plane and learn how to fly. Dr. Robert F. Bowers, 2001. And then here are the actual gates just past the guardhouse. Hangar 1. This hangar housed the main activities of the airfield, including flight debriefings, flight record keeping, aircraft maintenance, and military and civilian management. And then the field expanded. They added Hangar Number 2, which was completed in 1944 in response to a tremendous increase in the number of cadets training at Moton Field. The tower was where the dispatcher would look out on the field and call the cadets over the loudspeaker to tell them about their flight assignments. Also in that tower was a big chamber in which parachutes were hung to dry. Roscoe Draper, 2001. And here are a variety of the different structures. This is the warehouse and vehicle storage. This is the room that they called Dope. During World War II, primary training airplanes were built mostly of wood and fabric. Ground crews sealed and strengthened the fabric with several applications of highly flammable explosive acetate coating called dope. This shed was used to store the dope. Applying dope could be a messy job if not done correctly. The wear and tear on heavily used training aircraft gave ground crews plenty of opportunities to learn application and safety procedures. It was called dope. The fabric was a special linen you'd paint it on with this dope, and when the dope would dry, it would shrink tight on there. And the dope more or less made it waterproof. George Carper, 2003. And here's the small lunchroom and the bath and locker house. Oil storage shed. Some of the structures have been destroyed over the years, and they've built these ghost structures, as I mentioned earlier. American history. Learn it, love it, appreciate it. And if you're enjoying these Saturday travel and history tips, please share them with at least one friend and one family member. Help us build our YouTube channel. And don't forget to watch our weekday nuggets full of information about creation versus evolution. Thank you.